Hey, I'm Headdroppers, and I made this spreadsheet in Excel, and what it does is, if you don't have Excel, first of all, I will have images of this, in particular, this whole part of the sheet, so you can see it all, even if you don't have Excel. But the point of this is it shows the efficiency of every item in League of Legends. Now, I know this has been done before, but every time I have seen it, they're usually outdated, and that skewers the numbers a bit because, you know, buff changes, nerfs, and all this. The numbers are skewed, and so what I've done is I've made it. If I show you quickly, here I have every single item in the game listed by stat. For example, this is every single health item in the game in this part here on Summoner's Rift, and I have the health and the cost of the item. And so if there is a buff change or a nerf, so a patch change, so say Giant's Belt gets changed, instead of 430 health, so it gets changed to 435, bam, the whole thing's updated, it's now recalculated, the whole efficiency sheet's different, and so it's very easy to keep this information up to date with patch changes. And so that's the reason why I did this, is so the data is always relevant, and if it is out of date, it's very easy to get it back in date. So if I show you here what I do, to calculate the efficiency of an item, what you need to do is calculate roughly how much it is going to be. For example, if we go on to a very simple item, let's see here, Berserker Greaves. It's a very standard item, there's nothing special about it. Berserker Greaves, let's have a look here, just to get it up on the screen. If we scroll all the way to the top, Berserker Greaves, okay, gives 25% attack speed, and gives you movement speed bonus thingy too, which, yeah, that's about 70 bonus movement speed, I think. Yeah, 70 bonus movement speed. So standard item, 7%, 70 bonus movement speed, 25% bonus attack speed. So if I look here, we can see here Berserker Greaves. It's in this the movement speed table, and if we go to attack speed, blah 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 blah, where's attack speed? Attack speed is here, and we find Berserker Greaves 25%. So what I do is, for example, say I'm calculating how efficient Berserker Greaves is for attack speed. It's a very simple calculation. If I want to find out how much 25 attack speed is worth, what I do is I'm getting the tier 1 items. The reason why I'm getting the tier 1 items is because usually they have no interference from other stats. Like Dagger only has attack speed, so I can assume by just looking at the Dagger that 1 attack speed is equal to 28 gold. Now there's also the recurve bow, which is a tier 1 item. It's only giving attack speed, which averages out both the Dagger and the recurve bow to 27 gold per attack speed. So on average, well, the base level you should be setting is you spending 27 gold per attack speed. And so if we have a look at how much 25 attack speed should cost, it'll be 25 times this field here, which is 678 gold. So 25 attack speed is worth 678 gold. And we know that because we got the mean of these two tier 1 items. So that's exactly how much Berserker Greaves is worth in attack speed, and only attack speed. Remember that Berserker Greaves also has movement speed. So if we go to the efficiency list, what we in the here, all we have is every single item listed and the mean value of their tier 1 item. That's all this is. This is like the database of all the stats. So if there's a buff or change to an item, you change it here. So if we go to the list, what this does is it pulls the information from these tables and it does the math. So if we look at a Berserker Greaves here, row 14, so let's follow this along. So in attack speed, 678, it calculates, like I said. And we go across, in movement speed, it evaluates it as 490 gold. So Berserker Greaves is worth 490 plus 678, which is 1,168. So Berserker Greaves is worth 1,168 gold. But it costs you 920. So you're saving about 250 gold in buying a Berserker Greaves, which is about 126% efficient. So we know that Berserker Greaves is quite an efficient item to buy. It's quite a cheap option. So one thing I have to note here actually is quite important. When I'm showing the most efficient items to buy, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the best items. For example, say you're fighting a Rammus, and that Rammus is being a dick, and he is building Thorn Mail, Randuin's, Frozen Heart, all that stuff. You're not going to say, I'm going to build an Infinity Edge to counter all this armor because Infinity Edge is 130% efficient. Or a Bloodthirster, because a Bloodthirster can be 200, no, wait a minute, sorry. Because a Bloodthirster can be 160% efficient. At that point, it may be a good idea, obviously, to build Last Whisper, wherever it is. Last Whisper, which is 140% efficient. It's got less efficiency than a Bloodthirster, but it's a better item to build at that point. So don't take this efficiency list as like rules, like you have to buy this item because it's the most efficient. All this is just like what this list is good mid-game items. Very efficient items are very good mid-game and early game items, but really late game you want to build the best possible items that you for the situation. So as we look here, I'm just going to start listing some very efficient items. So a very efficient item, which people often claim to be the most efficient item, is Aegis of the Legion. So Aegis of the Legion is often the first item a support will build after they go up to 5s. In fact, when I'm playing, I get very annoyed if my support upgrades the go up to 5s before building an Aegis, because I know once they've upgraded the go up to 5s, they're not going to have an Aegis for a long time, and it pisses me off to no end. But there is a very good reason. An Aegis of the Legion, if you're with one person, and only one person, it's 110% efficient. So that's only when the aura is touching the support player. But when the aura is touching the whole team on the support side, it is 265% efficient. 265% efficient, which force a role which gets very little gold, such as support or jungler. This is a really good item to build because it is so efficient in teamfights. For a support or jungler to be this efficient generally in teamfights, they would have to be fed, and supports don't normally get fed. Junglers can get fed, because they're always ganking, even though they get very little farm, they can easily get fed. But for support, if you get a kill, you're going to have your whole team flaming on you. So this is why this is a very good item to build on a support. It's also why I don't agree with this being the item the jungler buys, because it's so efficient and so cheap. It's only 2k gold. It's so efficient and so cheap that it's just perfect for support to get. They don't need to spend a lot of money on it, and they get a lot, which helps in team fights. So Aegis of the Legion, a great item to get. Cheap, high effective percentage. So as we look down this list, we things like Amplifying Tomb. I won't worry too much about. It says you lose about 13 gold, because the other tier 1 items are a bit more efficient, but it's a cheap item. You've got to remember here, cheap items are good. The cheaper the item, and the more it gives, the better early and mid game will be. Like for example, Archangel's Tomb is a very expensive item. It's nearly 3k, but it's fairly efficient when it's on full stacks. Once it's on full stacks, it's 212% efficient. It's effectively worth 6k gold. So you save about 3,000 gold on building an Archangel's once you have full stacks. But it's a very expensive item, so if you rush to it, you'll be behind until you have it. So that's something to note. It'll be more of a mid-game item than an early game item because it costs 3,000 gold. So as we make our way down here, let's have a look. Catalyst, 162% efficient. Very cheap item, very good mid-game, very high efficiency, well, medium efficiency. So it's a very good item to build. If I just have a look here. Oh, here's something to also note. On these items, I also calculate the I try to calculate how much the passive is worth. If you believe my calculations are naff, you can completely ignore them, because I have two columns here. One column is without my passive calculations, and one column is with my passive calculations. So just another quick example. Where was I? I was talking about Catalyst. Okay. Without the passive calculations, Catalyst is worth 1.4k gold, which is still efficient. You still get more, but with my passive calculations, I think it's worth 22.1k gold. And if on this particular note, I'll tell you how I calculate the efficiency. This one in particular is actually quite a long one, but if I guessed that someone would level up about once every minute or so after getting this item, it's not very easy to calculate the distance between leveling up, so I may need to fix this calculation to maybe like once every 2 minutes or a minute and a half, I'm not sure. But what I did is I calculated the downtime between these items. I may need to update this calculation in particular, but after 10 minutes it could be like, well, 10 health pots, 10 mana pots. I'll probably come back to that calculation in particular and update it. Another one, if I try and find another example of not all of them I try. If I can't calculate a passive, I won't bother. But if I go here and look at Force of Nature, so the first thing I do is, throughout this whole sheet, I'm estimating that the person is going to have 400 movement speed for everything. So if something reduces someone's movement speed by like 20%, I'm going to guess they're about 400 movement speed. Sometimes people are faster, sometimes people are slower. I know as a jungler, when I start with boots and I have movement speed quints, I can often have 400 movement speed at level 1. I know a lot of mid champions and other champions will often have to wait till like level 2 boots, but 400 movement speed is kind of the standard amount for like most players once they get level 1, level 2 boots. Some champions are faster, some are slower. There's so much variance that I've just tried to pick a number that fits everyone. For this passive, you gain health from how much health you have, and I've guessed that late game, mid game, people are going to have around 2,500 health. The only one usually who has lower or equal to this amount of health for late game is just the AD carry. You'll find that even AP mid has sometimes 3,000 health. It's even more than this, so it's just a safe number to pick. But calculating from 400 movement speed with the 8% movement speed on Force of Nature and the health regen, which is this calculation here, I calculate that the passive is worth about 1,500 gold, and which makes Force of Nature in particular, it costs 2.6k gold to buy. Without its passive, I calculate it to be 2.4k gold. With its passive, I calculate it to be about 4k gold, which is 150% efficient, which is very good. Obviously, this item is still situational. I'd still only build it if the enemy's AP wasn't an issue. I'm not saying this item's so efficient, build it against fed AD enemies. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the numbers. You've just got to learn to use them. But if we have a look at an interesting one. Oh, there's something also to note. Okay. Items that don't have a tier 1 base item, their stats may be skewered a bit, and there's nothing I can do about that. For example, if I go to the efficiency calculator, and we have a look here, for AP, there's 3 tier 1 items: Amplifying Tomb, Blasting Wand, Needlessly Large Rod. You could include Dawn's Ring, but I believe that skewers the stats because it's not just AP. But this has 3 tier 1 items, which are only AP. So you can roughly calculate how much AP is worth in the game. If we have a look at Tenacity, there's no tier 1 item. So all I do is I roughly calculate how much these cost, but the stats are skewered. It's a bit biased because there's other stats on it. There is other ways to calculate this. For example, on Merc Treads, I could calculate the cost of the magic resist and movement speed and take it away. But if the item is too efficient, then that stat will be too small or negative value, which it would skewer it as well. So unless Riot releases a tier 1 item with Tenacity, there's no way I'll be able to calculate it. And the stats which are skewered: Tenacity, cooldown reduction, armor penetration, magic penetration. But if we have a look back at Elise's Miracle, whatever, this item, how do you spell it? says Miracle. Okay, it gives health regeneration, mana regeneration, and tenacity. So it gives sustain, and tenacity, which is a great item. One thing we don't see in the current meta is tenacity outside of Merc Dreads. We only see tenacity used on Merc Dreads. What would be interesting if people would start mixing around a bit, but if you have a look here, on health regeneration alone, it's worth around 750 health, which is more than half the item's actually worth. It's a very cheap item, it's only 1.3k gold. The mana regeneration is worth 1.1k gold, which is nearly the item's cost, just the mana regeneration. And then the tenacity on top of that is worth another 1.2k gold. But without the tenacity, the item's still significantly efficient. Without the tenacity, the item's worth about like 1.9k gold, and it costs 1.3k gold. So Elisa's Miracle is a very cheap sustain item, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think it upgrades into anything though. Does it say? No, it doesn't. And Shirelia's Reverie, whatever, does outperform it in late game, so a support wouldn't want to buy it. And because top and mid get farmed, I can't see them having it, and because the jungler needs movement speed, I can see them preferring Shirelia's. But regardless, this item is significantly efficient. It may be interesting to see some top laners play around with it. I know on Singed in particular, building a Philosopher's Stone helps really well early game. And since Singed, I believe tenacity stacks with Singed's ultimate, but then again, Singed would prefer movement speed. It's an interesting thing. I can imagine some top laners playing around with it. It's a very cheap item. It's a lot cheaper than Shirelia's, which is 2.2k gold. So it's like 1k gold cheaper than Shirelia's. But it is very efficient. So it's a very good early game item. If we have a look further down, I'm just pointing out very efficient items here. Rage Blade, it's fairly efficient. 180%, effectively worth 4.1k gold, but without my passive calculation, it's pretty much worth its cost. I'm calculating when it has full stacks, so when it's on no stacks, Rage Blade is worth 2.3k gold, which is about the price you pay for it. But when it's on full stacks, it's worth 4k gold, which is 180% efficient. So that's an example of an item which gets more efficient as the fight progresses, but when the fight starts, it's about, you know, it's not very good. One interesting thing is, I know I personally love Glacial Shroud. Anyone that knows me knows I always build Glacial Shroud on pretty much I jungle most of my games, and I pretty much build Glacial Shroud on pretty much every mana dependent tankish characters. I mean, they don't have to be a pure tank, but I still build it. It just feels so efficient. So I did the calculations, and it's nearly 200% efficient. The reason being is it's essentially got exactly the same stats as Frozen Heart without the passive. And Frozen Heart is a really damn good item late game. It helps shut down an enemy AD carry or Fed Jax. If we have a look here at Frozen Heart, I've just got it here. It's not as efficient in percentage as Glacial Shroud, but something to note, getting an early Glacial Shroud and postponing the Frozen Heart is a really good build that I do most games, because it's just so damn efficient. You get significantly tankier from it, because you don't need the Frozen Heart passive till late, really, until someone's fed. If I keep going down here, just picking things out as I scroll down. Locket of the Iron Solari. There was recently a Reddit post about this item. About 2 days ago, I think it was. Or was it yesterday? I can't remember. Some guy was asking for buffs to this item, saying it was not efficient enough, basically. Their claim was actually, what they claimed was actually really good buff to the item. But I'm not going to go into the details of that post. What I'm going to go into is actually how efficient this item is. And the thing that confused me when I calculated the efficiency of this item was that it's got a better efficiency than Aegis the Legion. It's 280% efficient, where Aegis the Legion is 260% efficient. This is assuming you've got 5 players on your team all together. Now, I will admit that my calculations are very situational, and that is if you use your shield every time it comes off cooldown on 5 players, which is in a team fight. Yeah, this is possible, but you've got to stay alive for the whole team fight and give the shield off to 5 people throughout the whole team fight. So this may not be 100% realistic, but I've tried to figure it out. So what I've done is the health it gives you and the cooldown I've calculated is equivalent if it was health regeneration, which is the calculation here. Obviously, you can check my calculations when you, if you download the Excel spreadsheet and modify them as you see fit. But what it does here is it calculates how the uptime with the shield, how much health it's saving, and it gives you, I'm calculating health regeneration equivalent to the health the shield is giving you, and how much that is worth in health regeneration. So the stats are a bit, yeah, this is what it's worth, and yeah, this is a bit, you know, me trying to figure it out. But it's a very efficient item. So definitely supports should be getting this item because it's very cheap, high efficiency. This is a blatant support item, very cheap, high efficiency. If we go down, right below it we see Madrid's Razor with, I think I'm going to ignore this item. Okay, I believe this I calculate this item only against creeps. Against creeps, this item has 320% efficiency. 320% efficiency against creeps. Yeah. 400, what's this one? Mana Manipulator. This is one that surprised me. A Mana Manipulator is an item we rarely ever see at the moment. It gives 7.2 mana regeneration to all allies near you, and you can buy it as your first item. It costs 475 gold, and it stacks with other mana manipulators in the area. They stack, but it's got 430% efficiency, which is insane. That is I think it's one of the highest efficient, second highest item in the game. No, third highest, fourth highest, fifth highest by the looks of it. Fifth highest in efficiency. It's probably because the item is just so damn cheap. I'm not sure I could recommend using use of this item because it upgrades into Soul Shroud, which is yeah, the upgrade version is pretty naff, but it's an interesting item because it's so damn efficient. Supports could buy it and maybe sell it later because it's just really cheap. But obviously, less wards. I mean, I think I'd rather spend that 470 gold on a few wards. Like, is that about 5-6 wards or so? I mean, that could cover the whole map. Someone tells me that's a bit more efficient than a mana manipulator, but it's an interesting item. It came up with an interesting stats. I'm going to ignore Medjai's Soul Steel because Dime's only that efficient when it's on full stacks, which rarely ever happens anymore. Nash's Tooth. This is one that surprised me greatly and confused me. Nash's Tooth is a 419% efficient. Now there is something to notice that this item does have cooldown reduction, so these stats are a bit skewed. But even then, this item is too damn efficient and be considered. Do I have the wrong stat here for? Oh, I think I've got the wrong. Nash's Tooth. Right, okay. Hold on. Right, here's how efficient it is. Okay, I had the wrong price. Okay, so it's not as efficient as it looked. It's 200% efficient. I accidentally had the wrong price for it. I quick fixed that though. So this is the proper efficiency now. It's 200% efficient, which is still really high for an item that's considered underpowered. I liked building on Skarner because it gives AP and attack speed, and as most people know, attack speed lessens the cooldown of his ultimate, which allows for a funny play as Skarner. But more importantly, it means you can spam your Q, which scales off of AP. Usually you see people play Skarner as a tank, but I liked building him as this melee Teemo, kind of, in a way. But surprising the efficiency of this item. I'd like to see it used more, but the problem is it costs nearly 3k gold. And I don't like items which cost a lot of money on junglers, because you're putting money into a pot and hoping it's going to reward you. And on a jungler, you're already taking a lot of risks rather than try and put your game into one item. But it's still high efficiency. If we keep going down here, we can see that Quicksilver Sash. Okay, this is an item I need to point out. It looks like it's got low efficiency. It looks like you lose 550 gold, but this is not calculating in the active ability that removes all CC effects. That was too situational to calculate. But if you have a look here, without the active effect, this item is very inefficient. So if you buy this item, make sure you click the button. Rod of Ages. Rod of Ages is often looked at a very efficient item because people consider it to be balanced before the passive starts ticking. But if you look here, it's only 140% efficient. Maybe it's because Rod of Ages costs too much. But yeah, it's an interesting result. Riley's Crystal Scepter is pretty much worth what you get, but I tried to calculate the movement speed debuff, but you can't really do that. It's really situational spells. So it's worth a bit more because it slows enemies, but it's pretty much worth what you get. If we have a look here now, I mentioned Shirelia's Reverie before, as opposed to Alicia's Miracle. If we have a look at Shirelia's Reverie, it's the second most efficient item in the game when it's around 5 players. When it's only you on your own, it's got 180% efficiency, which is high. When you're in a whole team, that number starts ticking up to 500% efficiency. If I just check something in this calculation, did I calculate the passive? If I move over here, right, so what I've done here is, assuming you're pressing the button on Shirelia's Reverie every time it comes off cooldown, I'm calculating how much movement speed that is over the duration, like, and then finding out how much that costs. So for example, if it's up 3 seconds every 60 seconds, I obviously divide it by that amount. Okay, so if we have a look at the next item down, which is Soul Shroud, I said that it upgrades a mana manipulator, and I said Soul Shroud's a bit of a meh item. Now, there is one thing I need to know about this item. It's very efficient, and it's moderately cheap, but the most important thing is how it gives cooldown reduction to everyone in the party. Now, most people don't build enough of it, to be honest, and I know in tanks, like Maokai in particular, you don't really build cooldown reduction apart from maybe Frozen Heart, maybe what's the item that gives you more healing effects? I forgot, but it gives like a bit of cooldown reduction, and sometimes you see Maokai's build Shirelia's Reverie, but generally they won't hit the full 40%. And I know on Maokai in particular, cooldown reduction makes his tankiness scale significantly, with his passive healing him for every spell he casts, or every 5 spells I think he casts. I should know this because I like main Maokai. But the point is that his Q also makes him significantly tankier because of the CC it brings and how he can just spam it. For another example, Jarvan. Do you ever see Jarvan build cooldown reduction? Personally, I don't. But it would mean he have more knockups, more CC. More CC means in a team fight, their team can do less. So cooldown reduction on people with CC actually makes your whole team tankier because their team will be doing less damage. So Soul Shroud is a very good item because it gives a stat which people don't normally build, and this stat is often misunderstood. So sure, cooldown reduction increases damage, but it also increases tankiness for your whole team if that player has CC. And I mean, even a champion like Irelia, how often do you see Irelia build cooldown reduction? But if she had cooldown reduction, she could use her stun more. Which obviously means that the enemy's team will do less damage because they're getting stunned more. So it's a win-win situation. Champions without CC will do more damage. Champions with CC stop the enemy team from doing as much damage. So I think Soul Shroud is better than people let on. If I get up the item stat here, actually, Soul Shroud. The only problem with Soul Shroud is it doesn't actually give mana. In my opinion, that's the problem with it. It gives mana regeneration, but not mana. And I believe that with an item that doesn't give so much mana regeneration, you'll find that the person who has it will be going, quite a lot. But I don't know, that's maybe me just being a bit, I don't know, I'm not 100% sold on a Soul's Shroud, but the 10% cooldown reduction is great. That's, as everyone should know, the maximum a character can get is 40% cooldown reduction, and that's 1/4, a quarter of a character's max. And that's giving it to your whole team. If a character had Soul Shroud and Blue Buff, they're on a 30% cooldown reduction. That's nearly max. So it's a very good item to build. I'm not completely convinced, but I'd like to see it be used more. Spirits of Visage, that's the other one I was talking about, that Maokai sometimes build. Scroll down here. Sword of the Occult, I'm not talking about that one. Tear of Goddess, it's a very cheap item, high efficiency. You can't really say anything wrong about this item, it's so cheap. Cheap items are good items. Yeah. If we have a look here, Bloodthirster, at 0 stacks, the Bloodthirster is an inefficient item. This is something everyone needs to know. And I know it may sound stupid, but letting your AD farm his Bloodthirster is quite important. A lot of people go, well, dude, I need farm as well, but yeah, sometimes you just need to bite the bullet and let the guy farm his Bloodthirster. Because at 0 stacks, it's inefficient. At full stacks, it's 160% efficient. You can't argue with that. So, Brutalizer, cheap item, well, moderately cheap item, 240% efficient. If I remember right though, this item does give cooldown reduction and armor penetration, so it is hard to calculate, so these stats are kind of skewed. This is another interesting one. Okay, ignore Thornmail. That's a situational item, so I can really calculate it. But look at Tiamat. Okay, against one enemy, Tiamat is 130% efficient. Okay. On Tiamat, this is AD I think. On AD alone, Tiamat, the AD alone, which is 55 I think, wait a minute, just give me a second. Tiamat, 50 attack damage, it's worth nearly 2k gold. Just from the attack damage, 2k gold. That's nearly the full price of the item, just the attack damage. So if we have a look at 5 enemies, if your splash is hitting 5 enemies with the Tiamat, it's 640% efficient. 640% efficient. If you're hitting 5 enemies in your melee, making it actually worth 13,000 gold. And it costs 2k gold, but it's worth 13,000 gold if it's hitting 5 enemies. Which is why when Fiora was released, her ultimate seemed broken when you stacked Tiamats, because they were so damn efficient that her ultimate seemed to be overpowered. But it was just the fact that the Tiamat was just being so efficient. Well, yeah. If you're hitting 5 targets and you're ranged, very unlikely. It's 490% efficient because it does less damage if you're ranged. Trinity Force is 180% efficient. It's not as efficient as people let on, but because it costs so much. Will of the Ancient, 560% efficient with 5 players. With 1 player, it's only 150% efficient. So it's definitely a very good item to build for the party-wide spell vamp. Another good thing about Will of the Ancients that people often forget is it gives people who don't have spell vamp, which means when you're harassing the enemy team, it's essentially like having Baron buff because you're constantly getting healed. With the health regeneration and Baron buff, you're getting healed as you poke the enemy. So it's very good for poke teams. For example, Maokai never builds spell vamp, but if someone on his team has Will of the Ancients, he's suddenly healing every time he throws a sapling at the enemy. So it means his poke's better. So they should win a poke war. Another interesting thing, Zeke's Herald, cheap item, high efficiency, 350%. And as we look here on the last, on the buffs, there's 3 buffs in the game from neutral monsters. Blue buff, red buff, Baron. Blue buff is worth, without taking in fact into consideration its passive, is worth on average about 3.3k gold when you're carrying it. 4.8k if I try and calculate the passives. This will be skewered because it's based on the amount of mana a person has. So this item's basically worth about 4k gold just having Golem buff, 5k gold just having blue buff. So dying with blue buff, don't do it. Don't risk your life if you got blue buff, just don't do it. Red buff, this is a hard one to calculate because all of its effects are passives. It slows and does a debuff, but I calculated it to be about 2.2k gold. So red buff is good for ganking. It helps your AD, but it's hard to calculate this item, so I would ignore this stat. Baron buff. On 1 player, Baron is worth 5.5k gold on 1 player. So if 1 player has Baron, everyone else is dead. In theory, your team's up 5.5k gold while that person is alive. When Baron is on your full team, it's like having 27,000 gold. It's probably why you see games changing so dramatically when someone has Baron buff, because it's almost like 30,000 gold. That's a lot. Yeah, so Baron, don't fight an enemy team if they've got Baron buff, it's not a good idea. Everyone knows that already, but still. So this is the efficiency thing. I went over the most efficient items and debated items. Not all these stats are 100% correct. Obviously, someone says, "Dude, these stats are incorrect." I'll fix them. Let's see here. This sheet also does other things. For example, these are my last 140 ranked games I've recorded. Put data in here. But say I just played a new game, I'll be like the month here. If you want to know, it says all the what each row means at the top here. But what this does is it's good for recording your games, because what it does, it spits out information. I'll show you in a minute. So I put in the date, the game number, the result, win or loss, my ELO now, what champion I played. So Maokai, let's say I play Maokai, and I jungled as Maokai, so I put in jungle, and I put my kill death ratio, Yeah, I got a lot of assists. Let's just put bot. That was top. That was bot. That was top. Right. Okay. So I'll say I was bot lane. Did I have a skin? Did I have a legendary skin? No. How many normal skins did I have? 1. Was I duo or solo? I was solo. How long was it? It was about 45 minutes and 25 seconds. What happened? What can I do to improve myself? Get better. What happened in the game? My team fed, and it was a troll game. A troll game is something which is just something I do to make myself feel better in a way, but in a way it's something which was kind of out of your control or unfair to a large degree. I do kind of overuse it, but that's an example of me putting in data, and what it does is on this page I turn all that data into stats, and from the stats on this page I turn all those stats into graphs. So on the games played, if we have a look here, in the last 140 games, 18% I played as Maokai, 14% I played as Mumu, 12% I played as Mundo. In the last 140 games, I've played jungle 69% of the time, support 10% of the time. This is my ELO. This was a very annoying drop that I had. I often get this when I climb ELO. I start climbing, then I lose it, and start climbing, climb, brrr, climb, brrr, climb. It's very annoying. I can see here I'm just gonna go brrr. I don't know why I got on a loss streak like that, but it happens. So win-loss ratio, kill death assist ratio. Because I'm a jungler, what I often do is I pass over kills, so I have quite high assist ratio and not a very high kill ratio because I often give kills. I leave the enemy on low HP, so my my AD or mid can take the kill, or top, but never support. Supports don't take my kills. Trolls versus normal, I don't know, that's just me trying to make myself feel good. Game length, I want to update this graph so it shows the mean value, so I can see if games are slowly getting longer as I get higher ELO or short or whatever. Jungle win-loss ratio is higher than my normal win-loss ratio. My support is even higher, but I've played less games, so my duo versus solo game ratio is pretty in favour of solo, as you can see. My win percentages, as Alistar, I have no, as a Mumu, I have a 50%, 57% win ratio. As Mundo, I have a 64% win ratio. As say Castan, 100%. Maokai, 60%. Side from top or bot. Jungle kill death ratio in specific. My support kill death ratio. My AD kill death ratio, which is quite funny because it's like, ooh, yeah, like a little Trinity Force kind of thingy. Mid kill death ratio, which is actually even more. Are they all the same? 32, 31, 30, is that 37? 37, alright. My support kill, my top kill death ratio. So that's all this file does. This is a bit more in-depth look, but the main thing I wanted to get across to you was the different stats here and how they're calculated. So yeah, that's it. There is a download to this file. I did make a Reddit post. This is just a video to go alongside. But there is a download on Mediafire, which I'll post a link to. So that's about it. So yeah.